If I can share, okay. Let me open up another table, I guess. Make sure that we get the pleasant hands. I'm just going to fold this one out. Should we add like audio? I have no idea. Let's just share the screen and see what happens here. There's a few minute delay. Alright, sorry, I was like trying to alright. Okay, just sharing the screen stream here. I'm waiting till you guys drop in. In the meantime, I'm mostly folding. Let's see if we're actually live. I have no idea. There's a delay here because otherwise people can see, well, like my cards if they open the stream, and that would be kind of sad. We're just going to battle three-handed here on 500. I don't know. I might play higher, I might play lower. I'm probably going to stream for an hour or so. This is the first time that I've streamed them streaming publicly. I've done it semi-publicly. Through like lessons via Run It Once, like boot camps, and just like streaming in either the Discord server. You're free to join down below. There should be a link, or I will put a link. Fuck, now I need to do that. And how do I do this? Can I just invite people, I guess? Will be mostly you're coming through. Okay, cool. Most of you guys coming through actual Discord servers, I imagine. So, yeah, first time I'm streaming. I might place a little bit higher, I might play a little bit lower. I'm mostly here to see if there's any interest in any questions that you guys might have on pretty much anything. As long as poker related, I'm happy to answer most other questions. I guess gotta be careful here with what I say. Most other questions I'd be happy to answer as well, as long as they're somewhat relevant, I guess. Last thing I want is some political discussion or whatever like that. I really don't want. I'm happy to play higher, like I said, or maybe play some Russian cash. I've just got one table on screen right now. I've got like a very basic setup here. And you could do either here. I'll just do this. Just have one table on screen, but I think I can switch to, I'm not sure if it's this one. Yeah, this one where you have multiple tables. We get an overbet, which is an interesting sizing for sure. My opponent is Brazilian, which usually means they're a bit more aggressive and generally a little bit better. I'm going to call here. I think my hand is going to be strong enough. He needs to, like, monotone textures are very weird to play. Basically, he needs to check the turn with a lot of flushes. It's very likely that he's not finding those as often as he should. On the same token, on the flop, I need to be checking back with a lot of flushes, and it's quite likely that I'm not going to find them as often as I should. This is relatively tempting to call. And the fact that he's Brazilian makes me want to call more. but it is probably just going to be a fold. Can we just call here? I'm just going to call, but I don't think that this is profitable, to be honest. Yeah, I think we got lucky there. Like, calling because I'm on stream and I want to see the answer there. We are currently playing 500 now. The stream is not live, by the way. So I'll just type this in the chat. Oh fuck, what am I doing here? Jesus, did I do that? How's the traffic at this hour? That's a good question. So I block bet here. We face a river by someone that I have played with before. I think I recognize the name. My hand is going to be indifferent here. Oh wait, you can't even see the hand. Fuck, that's annoying. Here, I think I'm going to call. This is close though. I will fold here. Like, I think good players are going to raise weaker for value. I win both hands, but I get a bit lucky. How's the traffic, recreational traffic at this hour? The recreational traffic at this hour is generally very bad. Let me see if I can pull up something to kind of show you. This is a pretty good indicator. Like, I've made many of these charts because I kind of like playing around with data and trying to see. It's not even like trying to game and find the right time slots to play for myself, because I have a family, I have young kids. Like, I'm not going to be able to sleep through the day here. Right now, everything is relatively silent because my youngest is sleeping, but usually when they're both awake, and sometimes when one of them is awake, it's just very noisy over here. If you've seen some YouTube content, then probably you've seen that. This is going to be indifferent. It would kind of depend on the table, but I'm just going to open it. What was it pulling up? So so this is for rush and cash. Wait. I need to. Let me play this first. You could do whatever. Like, I'm just going to block bet because it's an Asian guy. I don't think they'll check raise often enough usually, and generally they're a bit too weak tight. We're playing 20 big blinds. I have no idea how to play 20 big blinds effectively, but I'm assuming that just block betting small is not going to be a massive mistake there. Let me see if I can put this on screen so you can actually see it. You can see that I'm not I don't plan on streaming very often, to be honest. And let's see, okay, something like this. The actual win rates you should ignore. It's more like the relative win rate to other time slots. So, and probably I could have just like gone from -4 to -6 or something like that, so you can actually see. But let's say right now is, what is it? We are around, like this like little uptick here. But it's still significantly lower than in the nights. Okay, a couple of cool questions. Let me try the. Oh wait, I'll just move this table. Oh, fuck man, I should have done this differently, I guess. Anyway, I'm playing multiplayer here. I'm just going to play this hand. So a couple of questions. One is, for low stakes players, what is the best side to play between PokerStars and GG? That is a very good question, and one that isn't very... I should have probably bet flop, by the way, because this seems to be recreational with 50 big blinds. Do as I say, don't do as I do. It's not a very easy one to answer. During the day on PokerStars, if you're playing, like, how low is low stakes, right? Like, if you're playing 5-0, you're going to be fine on either side and you will have enough action. If you're playing 100-0, then I'm not sure if there's tables running during the day, and so if you want to play during the day, that would be a consideration. Let's say you take the perspective of I want to move up as quickly as possible, then you'd want to take the highest relative win rate. We get a jam here. I'm just going to check in the lobby how many tables this guy's playing. This is generally just a spot that you don't fold. I think I'm just going to fold, to be honest, but it's just so gross. Give this. I'm going to fold. I just need more time to click the button. Is what I'm saying. So safety first. I've got some time bank cards apparently. As he plays 2 tables. So tempting to call here. This is generally an underbluffed spot, so I think I'm just folding. It's multi-way, so very little incentive for him to be bluffing. Yeah, GG if he bluffs me on stream. First off, low stakes players, what's the best play? So yeah, like it kind of depends. Let's say you want to just maximize the chances of moving up. You want to table select aggressively. I don't think there will be a massive difference between the two. On GG, I guess the average win rate is going to be pretty similar. Assuming that you're not going to like mass multi-table or something like that. On this we can actually call. Now that we have opened it, and just check fold flop. So difference in win rate is going to be relatively small. The problem is that on GG the win rate is going to be dependent on more variance. You pay for the convenience of the software being better than most sides by like sometimes going on massive downswings, and that is going to be annoying. Sorry, this is just a fault. So that's 1. 2, from your CFP data, what stakes do we need to play and how long average a 50-0 can climb to those stakes to secure 5k a month? That's a very good question. Basically, the reason why I think that is a cool question is because I want to kind of gain... Like the problem that we have with the CFP is that we have limited data. And so... like there's always going to be a sample size issue, especially if you want to divide it up between different sites, right? Because if you want to get the success rate, then you'd be like, okay, well, that's cool. Success rate is X, but now you are in Germany where you pay extra rake. And you have a limited amount of sites that you can play on, generally speaking, compared to someone who plays in a segregated pool in Ontario, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, whatever. There's going to be a massive difference. So that's definitely going to play a role. How long does it take a 50-0 guy to climb the stakes to secure 5k a month? So first of all, it's never guaranteed, no matter what you do. I think, and I'm heavily biased here, that going into a CFP is going to be, again, heavily biased. To take my opinion here with a truckload of salt. I want to be honest, like I wouldn't say this if I didn't really think it. I've been a student in a CFP where I've paid a significant amount of money to that CFP. And usually I think it's worth it. Not always though. When is it not worth it? Well, like maybe you're able to pay for private coaching yourself. You already have a lot of money and you're willing to do that. Maybe just going that route might be better in terms of the EV. So if you have got something to offer other than your time, then that might be a better option. If you are simply very talented and you've moved up from, let's say, 1 cent, 2 cents to 50 now very consistently, very solid win rate, and if you see a sim, you can very quickly understand what's going on, and through doing, I don't know, like watching free videos and whatnot, get an understanding of how to do data work and stuff like that, then I don't think it's worth it. Now to answer your question, how long would it take? So the question is, how long does it take to move up from, let's say, 50 NL to between 200 NL and 500 NL, kind of depending on the volume that you're playing and the sites that you're playing. Man, that's really hard to say. I would say, without, like, this is just me guessing at this point, because I haven't done the research on our CFP data because we don't have enough data to do this. We maybe have, I don't know, 60-ish players or something like that, tops that have been through an entire contract. I would say that it takes you about somewhere between 3 and 6 months usually to move up a stake. Obviously you can run really hot. Like when I was in Poker Detox, I moved up from 50 NL to 1020 in, I I started at 50 now in March, and I was playing 1020 in November. Now that wasn't necessarily all due to my skill. I was a teacher back then, COVID hit, and I had all the time in the world. That was a bonus. COVID had hit, so the games were amazing. And I started at Poker Detox at a time where they released Mobius, which was at the time especially very revolutionary. And so I had a very good starting position in order to get there. And then I ran incredibly hot. I think I ran like 50 buy-ins over EV or something like that over that sample. So, but I think 3 to 6 months per stake is reasonable. Yeah, like it probably is somewhere in there. Like I'm guessing 3-4 months usually. But some guys stagnate, right? Like there's guys that insist on playing low win rate games because they want to beat it, and they have this ego thing going on, and they don't really care about the money, and etc. etc. And then you have someone that is like, okay, like me, I was like, I don't really care. Like if I was playing on this table to play poker, I would just look at, am I going to be profitable? Am I going to be winning X amount? If I don't, I'm playing really poorly, by the way. So I don't like take my play. I have no idea what to do. I have no idea what the line is even. But like if I was playing here, I would want to make the most amount of money. If I was playing to move up, I would increase the chances of moving up as much as possible. So I would be table selecting. If I would be at a table where I wouldn't be sure whether I was winning, I would be cool not playing there. And this is one of the reasons why if I open a 1020 lobby right now, I'm seeing like a bunch of tables. Like if you're sitting at a table with one of the equations, it's fine. I'm not really interested in sitting at a table like this, where I'm playing versus Unbroken, Cameron, and an MP. All of them are very, very solid regulars. And I know for a fact that I'm going to be losing simply due to the rake, even if I was beating these guys, which I don't think I necessarily am. I don't think I would be like getting obliterated or anything. I think like everyone is probably pretty close. Maybe Cameron and Unbroken a little bit better. I have no idea, to be honest. Like this is just me guessing. But anyway, like I don't put myself at the level of Cameron for sure. Unbroken I think is really solid as well. MP I don't really know. I haven't played with as much. Anyway, like let's say they would be inviting me to a game here where I would have zero BB rake, no rake, and it would be like, well, maybe I'd play it for like simply like the same thing like as I did the coin channels. I would be playing it for like a few sessions, see if I'm running good. If I run good, I have some profits, and I'll keep playing. Especially if it's 1k now or 500 now, I might be playing for longer just to have some fun. But I wouldn't necessarily try to battle them out of money because, well, I think they're very, very solid. And I think the swings are going to be way, way, way too large. So back to the question, what are the chances of, how long does it take? Can't say. Differences are massive based on the starting position that you have and your attitude towards the game. But if I had to put a number like 3 to 6 months or something like that. What's rake at 2.4 through 1k on GG? Too high. What RNG do you use? It is intuitive tables. I don't have any affiliate link or whatever, but highly recommend using the software. It's been one of the most smooth experiences getting this software. And I used it on different sides at the same time. Just works perfectly. So shout out to them. What's the rakeback that you get at GG? Very dependent on where you're from and everything. But because like they take costs out of rakeback, fish buffet and whatnot. So when I was in the Netherlands, the rake would be pretty high. This okay. The rake would be pretty high, and sorry, the rakeback would be pretty low. Sorry, because of the fact that GG starts paying the gambling tax to the Dutch government out of like the revenue, not the net revenue, but the revenue. So they have to pay, I think, 30% or something like that, and they pay that first, and then the rakeback becomes part of that. Here you could bet. Either way is fine. I think just checking range usually on these textures is going to be pretty good. So that would lower your rakeback. I'm now in a country where everything is sort of legal. You can play pretty much whatever. You'd be fine. I'm just going to raise small here. And then the rakeback is a lot higher. So right now I'm before the jackpots at roughly 50% rakeback. With the jackpots maybe closer to 70. And before I was at 25 to 30% rakeback. And with jackpots maybe 40. Alright, so let me get a sip of water. How would you adjust to hyper-aggressive 3-betting, wide calling versus 4-betting? Stack off a pip or two wider and aggressive post-flop. Very good question. You play a lot tighter. That's like the boring answer. Can fold in different con modes and open raise node, yeah. And shed air post-flop, easy, yep. In fold flop or check raise node, increase, yeah. That sounds about right. And then obviously trap noded combos and play, yeah. Yeah, I think like those, you basically got like most of them, if not all. I think the mostly you just want to open significantly tighter, like your pocket aces is going to win a lot more. And your like weaker stuff is going to lose a lot more. Or not win as much, I guess. So like in different stuff you might want to fold already. Maybe you fold like some of the pure ones in a wider formation that still heavily rely on realization. So like let's say 8-6 suited or something like that. You might want to just fold even though it's opening pure, just go significantly tighter. And another thing is that you like the air, you can shed it a bit on the flop. Oh, sorry, my friend. And you can morph your ranges a little bit by check raising some more in some nodes, so you have stronger check calling ranges, but you're still going to have air. And so even if he's overcalling and whatnot, you sometimes still have to bluff because he's overcalling and just call, yeah, it's close. He's over bluffing and overcalling. So you can just say, okay, I'm just checking and giving up, because then you're giving up too often. 50 buy and downswing on GG is normal. Yes, it is. Like I looked at the results of a high stakes player. I won't name him because, well, it's not necessary for this story. That was playing in these games. One that I highly respect. I think is one of the best players probably in the world. And he lost 60-ish buy-ins in 50k hands. And he is winning pre-rakeback in these games. So for mere mortals, and this doesn't happen very often versus him. I'm just going to call him. Oh wait, he can't even see that hand. Let me do it like this, I guess. Wait, so let me do it like this. So, wait, what did I do? Check call here. Okay, cool. I guess we just shoved. No, he's never checking back a flush draw very seldomly. I'm just going to bet myself. I'm just going to bet this. Like usually this would be an okay check because he's not going to value bet tens, but I think 9-9 over 23 hands. I just want to bet myself and hope he calls pocket nines or something like that. Yeah, so it's very common, especially for mere mortals like us that have break-even win rates or slightly positive win rates. I think if I played 1k and 2k, I could get to something that's slightly positive, maybe 1 BB per 100 or something like that. And then the most important thing is that most players are going to be negative EV pre-rakeback, and so 50 buy-ins down pre-rakeback is just like basically break-even would be an upswing, which is something that's really tough about playing on GG. Can you mention one of the toughest mental leaks you had and how did you overcome it? The toughest one was mistake tilt and lack in self-confidence, and I still have that to some degree. I'm not like the most stable guy when it comes to mindset. I'm relatively stable, but I think One of the reasons why I don't really want to move up is, well, I'm not sure if I'm playing reg battles I would be winning as a baseline or winning enough to justify playing. That's one. Two, I don't really like going on 100k dollar swings. And then most importantly, I think not knowing whether I would be winning, I'm not sure if I would be capable of dealing with that. But let's start with the mistake tilt. A mistake tilt is when you are facing, let's say you face a large river bet and you're like, maybe I should call, maybe I should fold, I'm not entirely sure. You click call and you see that he obviously has a set. Like there's like a pretty good example of this in a video that I did somewhat recently. I can't remember which one. It was a 200 zoom video where I called a 4-bet pre-flop with ace-jack offsuit, blind 3 blind, which was that scenario already bad, and I just made mistake. And then somehow I ended up stacking off. And then that would be something that would really be frustrating to me. I would have to close my session. I closed my session back then because the video was done. But I had to close my session earlier, like in previous, like 5 years ago or something like that, because I would simply be too frustrated to keep on playing. I would just be extremely mad at myself and they're like, what a moron you are, etc., etc. And I would just be annoyed and wouldn't be able to play. I would need to like take some rest, stop playing for half an hour, reflect on the situation, let me calm down a little bit. The way I got over that, same thing for the lack of confidence, by the way, is there is this thing in cognitive behavioral therapy where you basically what you do is you say, okay, I can't change the emotion, I can't change the way I feel, I can't always change the situation that I am or like the triggers that put me into this situation, but I can change the thoughts that I have. And so in that situation when I was making mistakes, rather than saying to myself, hey, you're whatever, like moron or whatever, I'm going to shove here. Let's see, sad. Rather than being very negative to yourself, what you'd want to do is whenever that happens, you want to write down those thoughts, deconstruct them, reconstruct them, and then like basically rewrite the thought that you have as if you're coaching yourself or coaching someone else. So like when someone else is making a mistake in poker, I don't really do sessions where I sweat a player when he's playing poker or something like that, but let's say he shows me a hand where he's like, this was really bad. Usually the first things I say is like if you go through my database, there's like 50 million of those hands. If you don't make any of those mistakes, then you probably are delusional because most players are making them very consistently. It's just too tough of a game not to do that. And let's try to see what we can learn from it, which is completely different than what I would say to myself. And that is the exact difference in attitude. You can change the way you feel, you can change the trigger, but you can't change your thoughts. And if you change your thoughts, or at least be aware of the things that you're thinking and try to nudge them in a different direction, then you fix the problem to some extent. Let's see. Do you live in Moldova? No, I don't live in Moldova. I live in... Let me show this hand first. Let's do it like this, I guess. I'm not sure how to do this. I live in Andorra right now. And I am from the Netherlands. So I'm just going to check here because it seems like recreational, seems like a spot where he could be betting too often. And then I just check shove. And now when we're on the river, I think my hand is just good enough to shove. I think he will overfold regardless of the sizing that I pick. So I'm just going to shove here. You could go 3/4 or something like that, but I think the EV difference is going to be minimal. That's a very good hand. One that I did not expect he had. Sorry, he says. I'm going to need a refund there, my friends. Let's see what happens here. He raises, I squeeze, which is fine. But yeah, this is fine. Like it just goes in. Like sometimes they're going to have that. So yeah, I live in Andorra right now with my family. Beautiful place. especially if you're a little bit older, like me. I'm 34, almost 35. I have 2 young kids. On the weekends we go hiking and just enjoying the nature outside, but there's still like a lot of resources and shops and restaurants and stuff like that. So it gets vibrant enough for us, for sure. And we come from a relatively small town in the Netherlands, so definitely vibrant enough for us. And the tax situation is always going to be a very good one here. Any advice how to reduce mental fatigue during long or multiple poker sessions? I'm very bad at that. I'm very, very bad at that. Like I'm the kind of player that after some time, the difference between hour 5 and hour 1, and usually hour 2 as well, is going to be massive. So like simplifying your game is going to help you if you consistently mixing in spots where you don't really have to. Like if you want to play long hours, then that would be something that you'd want to do probably. Make sure you play less decisions that are like a lot of like pre-flop decisions and stuff like that. You can probably simplify and no one's going to care. Rather than you RNGing every open. This is that's a cool open because recreational. But other than that, I couldn't really give you advice. I don't really want to do that. The 1BB thing to use the time bank is you get like a limited amount of time bank cards on GG. If you want to buy more, you pay big blind. It's a new feature. The big blind is divided among the other players, and it forces everyone to play a bit quicker, especially if you're playing versus on tables where there's guys that are playing 18 tables or something like that. Sometimes pre-flop decisions go consistently into time bank, and that is relatively annoying for recreationals. And obviously it's better for GG if you play more hands per hour on the table. Here we are going to bet or aces, I think. Did you learn from Mobius Poker? I was in Poker Detox, which at that time was owned by Nick Howard. Patrick Howard, the owner, head coach of Mobius Poker, was back then was like the head coach of Poker Detox. So I did learn from Mobius Poker, but I was never in Mobius Poker because that didn't exist back then yet. Good morning. What does it take to join your stable? Minimum stakes and win rate. Like we don't have very hard and fast rules, in a sense that like we've taken on guys that play 5-0, even though it's pretty rare. But like sometimes you get an application from a guy that plays like 200-0, but you get like 2 sentences and it's relatively short, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not even sure. Like, yeah, then you're like, okay, well, I'm not super interested. Usually we send a questionnaire, but if we get like very short answers there as well, and it seems like very uninterested or something like that, then we just won't take them on. And sometimes you get a questionnaire, like an application from someone playing 5-0 that is very like motivated and excited, and like you read it and you're like, okay, well, I don't know, I just want this guy to succeed. And I don't know who he is, but it seems like a really nice guy, and we're just going to go ahead and try it. So that plays a role. Your motivation, how much time you have will play a role. Because if you play more time, you're more likely to succeed. None of this is like wait, we'll go ahead and block that here. Is a specific like, okay, you need to have this or you need to have this. Usually you can say like, I don't know, like if you're playing 25-0, 50-0, you have a reasonable amount of time to dedicate towards getting better, and you're eager, and you're willing to put the work in. You're willing to join a community and like maybe provide some value if you get the chance. Then all those things are usually good things. What is Gary doing from the rest of your doing different from the rest of your stable? That's a very good question. Like if I would have known exactly, then I would basically, and I could like explain it in a couple of sentences. This is just such a good bluffing hand. I think this guy's not going to overfold though. But whatever, we just bluff anyway. It's pretty close. We phase the raise. It's so tempting to shove here because we just broke all value. Should we just shove for? There's so many. We just. Yeah. It's tempting though. Whatever. Just give him respect and not punt on stream. So what is he doing differently? Like there's a couple of things. Like we analyzed this game in the CFP and we made a masterclass on it. So there's a couple of things that I know that he's doing differently than the pool. And I don't really want to tell that because that would leave him exposed, and I'm not really interested in doing that. He is someone that has played like 20 million hands, is very good at the fast fold format. So a lot of experience. I think he's just like, it's not necessarily raw talent if you like honed it through hard work, but there's oftentimes he shows a hand in the Discord and he's like calling a hand where I would have just folded because underbluff spot, and he'd be like, yeah, no, this and this is happening here, so I think I'm calling it. And I read that and I'm like, yeah, that's fucking smart. Like that's street smart in poker. Definitely plays a role, but like having access to data and being able to use it like in a way that is not just going blindly. Like he still uses his brain a lot. Like he's just a very good poker player. I don't know. I would guess I would not bank on myself. I would not bet on myself having a higher win rate if I really put everything into it. Even if I just one table and Gary 4 tables it. I think he's just really good at that format and is probably just a better poker player in that regard than I am. So yeah, not necessarily different exploits. I would say we have more guys that are winning pre-Rakeback. But he's just very, very good, and he is basically the exception. And you're good, like you did not know it was the Andorra flag. I don't mind. I don't have a strong connection to the country of Andorra yet, or any country for that regard. Like the Netherlands, I like living there, but if I was born in, I don't know, Austria, I would have probably preferred that if I could go back in time because of the tax situation. I don't have like a massively strong connection to the Netherlands, but obviously I do to the people in the Netherlands. Let me see, there were some questions somewhere. Nice, like this actually works. That's cool. I had some AMA questions in the Discord server that I'll try to answer in between here. Who is the new course aimed at in your view? So that's a good question. That's a tough one to answer. I know that there is players playing relatively high stakes that have bought it or are considering buying it, and I think it will be a good resource for them. And then there's players that are more recreational players that want to take their game more seriously, and it will be a good resource for them. I would say it is aimed for anyone that wants to get significantly better at 6 max no limit hold'em and wants to actually improve their win rate rather than learn theoretical concepts that might not even be relevant. Like I'm putting a lot of effort. Like today I was making like 6 videos on theoretical concepts, so I'm not one of those like data guys that is just like, oh, pull over folds, just out of bluffs, don't think about your range, yada yada yada. We will format here. But there needs to be relevance, and if there's no relevance, like you could think about blockers in a spot where the pool massively overfolds, and you're just like, okay, well, it might be useful to understand because it transcends to different spots. But if you're actually using it in game, then you're like, in my humble opinion, a complete moron. Anyway, like anyone that wants to get significantly better at no limit hold'em and wants to increase their win rate, I think it's going to be good for. If you are already part of a, I don't know, data CFP or something like that, there might be less value for you. So that's like usually the guys that, for instance, resonate a lot with my approach, that I have one-on-one sessions with, are the guys that come from a theoretical background, and they're like, okay, well, let's see what it is to learn here. And then I show them data on specific spots, and they can very easily integrate that into the things that they already know. But like if you're just a beginner, I would say that this is a very useful framework and resource to have as well, because in the end it will be it's already like a very extensive course. There's like 70 videos right now, and there will be like another 20 or so that we're going to release relatively shortly. And in the end, I think it will be a couple hundred videos, so you could basically go through the entire game tree and gain an understanding of what should you be doing here, what should your opponent be doing on this node, what are the mistakes they are likely making, why are they making those mistakes, and how could you exploit those mistakes. And I go literally throughout the game tree like that. So yeah, very valuable resource, I would say. Okay, so the next question I always find awkward to answer on stream, because I'll ask the question first. What is the biggest difference between your CFP and Poker Detox when you were with them? Do you have the standard lines approach, or how strict are you with it? Are your students allowed to deviate? Well, if you're not allowed to deviate, then what the fuck are we doing, right? Like, we are poker players. If someone, like, it happens every now and then. I'll kind of show you. I kind of want to show you this, but I'm not entirely sure if that's annoying. Something in Notion. Oh wait, I can open it in the browser, I guess. Because I had something from the course in Notion. I don't want to potentially. Probably this not a big deal, but I'll show you something that gives you an idea. So, like, for one, Poker Detox is no longer around. The reason why I struggle to answer this question usually, by the way, is because I don't want to imply that we are doing it better or worse, or that I think certain things in Poker Detox were bad. Like, they had like a very, let me just do it like this. This one. All right, so I'm playing two tables right now, as you can see. Let me see if I can. Yeah, okay. This is our playbook. Let me just give you a random example. We are in a delayed c-betting node. So in our playbook, there will be a simple instruction. So there will be a standard line to take. This is not delayed c-betting. This is phasing a delayed c-bet. Sorry, phasing a probe. But the idea is that we just go and show you the data and show you why the pool is doing a certain thing, and then there will be tons of videos to build context around this, like what are the hands that you'd want to raise. There's going to be flashcards surrounding this. So like having a standard line there is kind of moronic, because and like asking, like having a standard line is reasonable, right? We have that, like, if you don't know anything about the line, you've never studied it for a single hour, and you don't have any theoretical knowledge that will transcend into this node, which happens quite often for low stakes players. It happened to me when I was playing low stakes. Usually those situations, like do this is like a very good placeholder. Like 2 sentences, do this if you don't know, and then you're going to be fine. But you'd need to deviate, because not every situation is the same, not every opponent is the same. You're going to have different cards. Those are going to have different removal effects. There's going to be so many. It's always going to be a complex decision. So just saying raise any 2 overcards, like think about that sentence, for instance, like raise any 2 overcards, or raise your overcards aggressively, or something like that on the turn here. Now you're on an ace high texture. There's no overcards. You're not going to raise at all, right? Like, and on ace high textures you're going to be raising less than on, I don't know, it's 9 high textures. So there's that. What the fuck's going on here? Okay, I guess we just call with 2 recreationals, I guess. But yeah, so long story short, we try to teach people the exploits. We teach them why they are the way they are. We teach them a lot of theoretical concepts. I'm doing a course right now that is more tailored around not necessarily data. It is sometimes based on exploits, but it's mostly based around the idea of it's based on exploits, but it's not necessarily based around data. So Let's say we were to check raise min as opposed to check raise 3x or 2.5x. What if we just build an entire framework and try to investigate whether that could be a correct strategy in equilibrium? Are we losing any EV in equilibrium? If we don't lose any EV in equilibrium, do we expect our opponent to make more mistakes and stuff like that? This ace queen one was kind of whatever. I'm playing very poorly here. I don't necessarily do the things I do here. I'm autopiloting quite badly. So yeah, like there's all sorts of things, and I would be like, sometimes someone in the Discord says like, yeah, we got to do this because instruction says this. And I was like, well, no, that's not what the instruction says. The instruction says if you don't know anything about the spot, then this is a good placeholder. But it's definitely not that you'd want to auto execute that. Usually it just means if there's no voltage, you increase betting frequency or something like that. Can you expand on Can you please expand on time requirements regarding the CFP? Yeah, like I think like 20 hours a week or something like that. 20 hours per week, roughly. I'm folding in. Can you 20 hours per week, 25 hours per week would be enough, I would say. It would be roughly the minimum. Like I was working full time and I was working really hard, and like working really hard. I really liked playing poker. So it was not like I was like really annoyed that I had to put all that. I really liked it. It was my hobby. I'm always been one of those like you go. If I'm having like when I was studying poker, it would be like I wouldn't want to watch Netflix because I just like otherwise, yeah, I would just want to study basically. What's your overall? Okay, sorry. So yeah, like if you have 100 hours, sometimes that's all you can give, and that can be enough. So something like that. Man, you only have 13k hands on GG and a win rate of -12 BB per 100. I'm not sure how to respond to that. If you're interested in my long-term results, I've been very open about documenting that in my blog on Run It Once called One Day I'll See the Light. There's graphs consistently posted, even when I was losing heaps in the beginning, or like later on when I had massive downswings. I've always been very open with that. And like there's always like the risk when someone posts graphs that they're fake, but in my case, for one, they're not fake, and two, I was for instance in the CFP, so posting fake graphs would be costing me money, because then the CFP would be like, hey, wait, you said you won 50k, but you documented 100k winnings during your time in the CFP. What's that all about? So you can never be 100% certain with these things, unfortunately, but I've been very open about having long break-even stretches and whatnot, both in the CFP, where there's like, at this point, I want to say 50, 60 players in this, like over time, probably more, but like somewhere along those lines that are, I can read my blog right now. And they can see, I can post regularly what I'm winning or losing. To give you an idea, in 2020, let's see, 22 I won 200k. In 2024 I was at 2023 I won 200k, a little bit more actually. And last year I won a little bit under 100k, but I've played a lot less poker last year. Got 2 young kids right now, and they turn out to be really cool, and I want to hang out with them a lot, and so we traveled a bit more. But like I won significantly over time, so I don't really care too much about the win rate that I have currently on GG. Let's see. So let me go back to this, by the way. So like no. Let me take a sip of something to drink and see what time it is. I actually need to record some videos, so I want to take some time to do that as well. What is your overall overbet approach in single raised pot in position, button versus big man, color versus big man, single raised pot? That's a very broad question. Let's just say that you want to mostly overbet in situations where you have more very big enough advantage. The only thing here is that you probably already know this. But yeah, like if you like, it's a relatively broad question. Like you could mean the flop, you could mean the turn, you could mean the river, and you can mean like specific. If we don't have specific, it's really hard to answer. Yeah. In the course, will you make your Anki decks available? So over the years, I've built many Anki decks for myself, for the guys in the CFP. I have not shared anything that is directly available in the CFP because I didn't want to self-plagiarize. But there is currently 200 Anki cards available in the course, and there will be more over time. I will keep on adding them. So yeah, like mostly, therefore, cheers. I was hoping your answer would be something like that, to teach your students the reason why behind the lines. Yeah, that's usually like that's the thing that is generating win rate. It's not like you betting. Okay, I'll be completely honest now. Wait, I'll 3-bet here, cut the bullshit a little bit. Let's see. Let's do it like this, I guess. 3-bet here. Probably recreational, I'm not sure. I haven't been paying any attention. He could still be Iraq. That's I'm like laughing at the next question. I'll answer that one truthfully as well. Was hoping your answer would be something like that, to teach the students the reason why. So when I was in Poker Detox, I think back then, especially, I have no idea about what they have been doing the last couple of years. And I have no idea what Mobius is doing, although I can just infer from all of the stuff that I've seen that they added this one thing that was missing, I think, which was understanding the why. Without understanding the why, I moved up from 5 cents, 10 cents to 10, 20. So like if you were able to execute consistently, even without understanding the why, you can get a very long way. But I think it's better to do understand the why. And yeah, that's basically, when I started the CFP, I'll be completely honest as well, like I was out of Poker Detox, and I thought I was a pretty decent player fundamentally, but I was actually relatively poor player fundamentally. I was just really good at understanding where the exploits were and intuitively sort of understanding the why. But if you'd ask me, what is the betting frequency on this node? What are the sizes that we are using? Why are we using those sizes? Why are people making certain mistakes? Like for some mistakes, I would be able to infer and tell you correctly. On others, I would be not able to tell you correctly. Yeah, I'm just going to delay c-bet differentiate, I think. So yeah, like for a long time, we didn't really do that as much. And over time, I became a significantly better poker player. Like we all have become, anyone that has been around for that long. And we can see this in the data as well. Gaps are becoming smaller and smaller. I just always bet bluff here. So now the why is basically all I'm interested in these days, because the why is applicable in other spots where we don't have data on usually, and will like show you like the mechanics of the game a bit better. Will your course cannibalize your own CFP stable? Like that, I've answered this in my blog on Run It Once, and I've answered this in my public Discord server and in my variation of this question in my private Discord server, without like rehashing the entire thing. CFP and the one of course are going to be different, completely different by intent. And I don't think I'm worried about cannibalizing one, cannibalizing the other. I think they're just different products with the same methodology. I'll be as open and honest about every little thing in the in the course, but I don't think it will cannibalize it by any means. Like the CFP material is built over many years by a group of players, but even developers at this point are part of the team, and the resources that we have there, infinite basically, not infinite, actually infinite, but like we have invested in servers to run sims that are part of the playbook. We have hired developers right now to like, do all sorts of things. And then there's multiple weekly group coaching sessions with high stakes players. I have no idea what I did here, like, to be honest. I probably shouldn't be playing poker, but like at least something is on the screen, and anyone that joins is like, okay, I guess this guy's playing poker. I'm actually not. I'm just mostly donating money at this point. So yeah, I'm not worried at all about that. I've had a lot of one-on-one coaching over the years, and one of the highest winner, the biggest winner in a CFP started up with having one-on-one coaching, later joined the CFP, and that's a route that a lot of players ended up making. So I would say like maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 3, somewhere around that region. So if anything, I think it will provide a very good insight as to what we are doing in the CFP, and the goal is to provide value like for free here and on YouTube. I haven't had a lot of time to dedicate a lot of attention to actually making very good content on YouTube. It just takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of things to do, and I want to play some poker myself, so usually I have a couple of hours, and I try to provide a reasonable amount of value without having to prepare 6 or 8 hours of video. But that's the goal there. Then the goal is the same thing when I'm releasing a course or doing one-on-one. If someone asks me something in a one-on-one session, I will never hold anything back, unless that is something that is not made by me or that I don't feel is owned by me. The example that I gave in my blog and in Discord was like, we have a developer that helped us develop some strategies against bots. Won't go too deep into that, but basically those I had very little to do with. I just was lucky that this guy is really smart and helped us out a lot. And so if someone asked me like, can you give me those exploits, I would say no, because they're not necessarily mine. This is just a call, I think. It's kind of a weird one. Okay. Oh, isolate. I guess I also isolate here. Sorry, I can play this hand as well. We just call here. We have a reasonable amount of equity. It's not the greatest call because we are going to own ourselves on the spade quite often. False. And yeah, like even if we're not going to be too thrilled, but we have a gut shot and a flush draw. So how do you stay consistent outside of poker? I think self-development is a used thing in order to be successful. Any good books you think are EV plus, or podcast, or people to follow? Outside of the stuff that I think anyone interested in the doing Lyrian is from China, I have no idea. Maybe? I have no idea. I'm so tempted to shove here, but I won't. Heavily on the bluff line by a player that up until now, I don't know, the player is not seemingly very interested in putting a lot of money into the pot, and usually those players are on the bluffing more. So like Huberman and stuff like that, like the thing, I'll give you the 2 books that helped me most. One of them is earlier on in my career, and it is Grit by Angela Duckworth. Basically it goes into like studies and professor at, can't remember the like high elite university in the US, don't really remember exactly which one it was, studies how to become an expert. So she studies experts in their fields and then studies how to become an expert, and made a book on that called Grit. And that helped me a lot. and reframed a lot of thoughts that I had about talent and whatnot. So that was very helpful. And then most recently, the book of Bill Perkins had like a major impact on me, because I was always someone that was working too much and wanted to take most out of this opportunity, as much out of this opportunity as I could. Mostly because I was, when I was younger, I dropped out of high school, kicked out of high school multiple times, and was just not doing very well in life. And so later on, when I became more of an adult and taught myself some more discipline and whatnot, I got into this random situation where COVID broke out and everything sort of fell my way. And I worked hard, but I became incredibly lucky as well. And so I wanted to take most out of the opportunity. And I always try to quantify my time in like EV. Like if I can spend an evening watching a documentary or watching some Netflix, or I could study or play, then I like playing, I like studying, and that is making me money. Whereas I like watching a documentary, but it's not necessarily making me money. And so I would kind of approach it like that and be in a constant state of burnout. I mentioned earlier that I had very significant winning years in 2022 and 2023 while building the team. At the beginning of 2023, we might have 22, we had probably like 25 players or something like that. And at the end of the 2-year period, at the end of 2023, we had 60-ish, 50, 60. I guess like we had like closer to 65, and we've since been more or less stable, which I think is a good number for us at least. But during the time, I forced myself to play a lot of poker. Then I built the playbook with a team, but I built it. Most of the content, I would say, is mine, or at least I did most of the work. So just worked too hard basically, and the Perkins book helped me realize that, simply put, there's more in life than poker and work. Well, that's something that I think like everyone knows on a everyone kind of knows on a conscious level, but subconsciously it's different. And he taught me some frameworks throughout that book that were really helpful in that regard, like memory difference and whatnot. Like re-listening to it now because I want to keep reminding myself of those lessons. I really like Bill Perkins as a person. He comes across really humble and someone that would be really nice to hang out with in pretty much any environment, I would guess. That's one, and then two, he seems very wise. So yeah, those two books I would wait. Do you also know a few racks who are making more than 100k per year? It's almost impossible at 200 an hour lower for most people. It makes more sense to work a normal job. Yes and no. It really depends. That's like, and it depends on. It depends. 50k parts of the world is insane money. That's one. That's just your name's Tom Dekkers, which I'm going to assume is Dutch or Belgian. So we are at least from the same area, most likely. But let's just assume that we take like a Western European stance. I was making like average income, I would say, like as a teacher, working 5 days a week, beginning teacher. It's not necessarily one of the highest paying fields, obviously, but it's higher education in the Netherlands. So you get paid, like I got paid like reasonable amounts. I think if you start right now, you're getting probably somewhere in the region of 2,500 a month clean. In order to make poker worth it for myself, I needed to decide a couple of things. So one of them is, how easy is it to get back into teaching? Well, right now there's a massive deficit. I have done really well in teaching. I didn't win prizes or anything, but I think chances of me getting back into teaching are very high. Can I do better, significantly better than 2,500 a month? Yes. The tax situation in the Netherlands for a long time was gray, and then it gets solved with like the tax agency dropping some cases, and then later through licensing. Fuck, I can't pronounce the word. You get the point. Licenses, and so if you win 100k in the Netherlands right now every year, that's tax free. So that equates to roughly like a little bit more than, like, it kind of depends on what you're doing, but like if you work a job, it equates to almost 200k in gross income. If you work in a company and you have to pay, well, technically you don't pay it, but like you have to pay VAT and whatnot, then it can equate to a little bit more even. So getting to 100k a year is different for different people. If you have to pay taxes on it, okay, then it's different, right? Okay, GG. Let's see. Good luck. Let's run this first. So 100k is not the same. Okay. Let's see what happens here. What does that mean? Ooh, let's do this. I thought it was nice for a second. I had Ace of Clubs. What else is there but pain and ugliness? Says this guy. That's like a very dark way of. So yeah, like I generally are like, usually people go pro too quickly, and I did that way back in the day, way too quickly when I was playing microstakes. I was living at my parents' attic, but like 5 years later I was still living at my parents' attic and I was still broke. So building a career and having a job, which is kind of a ugly word in poker, is, I would say, like in most cases going to be favorable. It might seem like it might seem like very appealing, especially if you can get yourself into my situation. Obviously, I had a lot of luck. I already told you guys, but even without it, I would probably have done okay. I would have been able to scale to 100k a year if I had made the same choices and would have been not running like the bottom 10% or less or something like that, especially in the beginning. But whatever, we'll ignore that for now. But like having a job, like I was really happy as a teacher, and I've been, for a big part, I've been unhappy as a poker player. Not necessarily due to poker, but due to the different skill sets that it required. When you're teaching 4 days a week, it can be very tough and taxing because there's kids that don't listen to you, and like, especially in the beginning, that can be tough to deal with. And sometimes in some weeks there's a lot of work and like all sorts of things that are happening that make it a tougher profession than you think at first glance. At first glance you think, well, 12 weeks a year vacation or something like that, and you just like sit there, kids are inspired by you and you get to inspire kids, but that's usually is a very smart part of the actual job. But anyway, I was really happy back then because I would work from 8 a.m. till 4 a.m. 4 p.m. Especially later on. In the beginning I had to work more because I wasn't as good and needed to invest more time to get like a reasonable result. But later on I could just work 8 hours, sometimes have some overwork when there's some specific things happening, like the report cards were like those are usually pretty busy at the end of the year, like making sure that they're ready for the next year and that the next schools were informed and everything. But usually I'd be there and I had to have a lot of social interaction, generally had a lot of fun doing the things that I need to do, sometimes boring shit as well. But the amount of stress that it would put me through is significantly less than now as a poker player. I'm lucky right now that my income is not fixed to poker. Right now I have private coaching, I have the course, I have the CFP, and then I'm playing poker myself. So, but like for a long time that wasn't the case. For a long time the CFP was just investing and there wasn't any taking back. So yeah, like long story short, I don't think if you're like, this might not be for me, it's definitely not for you. If you think this might be for me, it probably is not for you. But if you're someone who's like, well, I really like this game and I really want to figure out and get better at it, then randomly, like me, you might stumble into making this your career. I was definitely not planning on making it my career. When I started the blog, I had zero intentions, even like it didn't even cross my mind at that point, because I was like happy at my job, and like why would you leave something that you're happy with? So yeah, I think that's kind of my take. Generally speaking, I'm agreeing with you, but 100k per year can be pretty significant. This is funny. Like I'm not sure what. Like I'll read the question first for someone that is not reading the chat. We don't have the chat like in the video, so I'll read it first. What countries would you recommend for the tax situation? I know that in Andorra you pay 10% tax on poker income, on any income for that's worth, like literally any income. Some income is exempt, but basically any income you pay 10%. So where would you live is basically any other countries than Andorra. Please don't say UK or Ireland, because you have to live there, which is hell on earth. We actually looked into that, specifically in the UK. London is pretty favorable, would have been a cool option. Very expensive, which is the downside. There's Brexit, so they don't want me there. That's the main one why we didn't move there. But we speak the language, and the culture is very similar to the Netherlands, and we come from a very poor city in the Netherlands where the crime rate is pretty high, and there's a lot of like social issues, very different than in Andorra, where you rarely see that. You don't really see homeless people, or like when I used to live relatively close to the shop, but 1 in 3 times when I was on my way to the shop at the city center, like someone would start screaming, not necessarily at me, but at someone else, or like there would be like random things like that, where I always felt like, especially at nights, didn't feel like the most safe environment. So that is to say, like oftentimes there is an argument against London, but I'm not saying it would be safer. It might be a little bit less unsafe. So yeah, like it might, but that wasn't really a consideration for me. That would have been a pretty cool life. I could see myself living in London, like having the resources of that city, dealing with like the negatives that come with it, but they wouldn't accept me. Try to get in, like not really tried, but I had some thoughts about that for sure. But yeah, like that didn't turn out to be an option. I looked at a lot of other countries, to be honest. Like my situation is different because my company grew over the years, and so having no income on poker, no tax on poker is one thing, but I had a pretty sizable company, and so there was an incentive there as well. And like the countries where you could live solely for poker, like I looked in basically any of them, and they all have their downsides. So I'll name a few. Before this, I'll name a few for you. One of them is going to be, if you're in Europe, Malta, which, if you think the UK and London, and Ireland are hell on earth, without like saying anything about Malta, I've never been, but from the stories that I've read and videos and stuff like that, it seemed like similar problems, just like more like a second world country, like basically less developed. Again, like nothing, like it's not like a third world country, it's nothing horrible. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Like I think it's basically just the things that are rather a little bit less appealing to live. For me, the quality of life would be a bit lower. Nice weather, taxes are good. Generally, like probably a pretty good country to live if you're into that. If you're younger, like not like me, unlike me, then you'd probably like it there. If you're going for more like city life, higher quality of life, healthier, cleaner environment, then Vienna is going to be a very good bet. We definitely looked into that. The reason why we didn't end up doing that is because, one, we have a company, so that's one, that it's not the most appealing place to live for a company. That's one. And then the other one is the tax situation is not 100% clear. It seems like there's like a 3% chance, 2% chance. It's gray, and you're 99% sure that you don't have to pay taxes, but there's a small chance that you have to pay taxes retroactively, so that tipped it into a no for us. But we definitely looked into like what neighborhoods we could live in and stuff like that. I think in terms of like the place to live, probably it would have been higher on the list than Andorra, without having visited Andorra, and we've been to Vienna before, so take that into consideration. Now that we've been in Andorra, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Like, we really like the mountains in here, and like for instance, tonight me and my wife are going to go on a hike into the mountains, and we get to see a sunset, and like we get to see the entire city, and it's like really nice. I never knew that I was into hiking, but since I'm living here, it's pretty cool. That's going to be a good option. Then there's some Eastern European countries that are going to be pretty good. Bulgaria is one of them, I think, but I'm not sure Montenegro is going to be one of them. We looked into that. That's a decent one. I'm forgetting one. Georgia might be one, but that seems like too far and like not. It might be very beautiful if I was younger, maybe, but definitely not for us. We want to be relatively close to our family. And then there's some European countries, like some Western European countries where you have limited access to sites, but you don't pay any taxes. Something like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, or you don't pay taxes even as a professional, as far as I know. Wow, that's cool. This guy won 100k jackpot. Kind of wish I was playing like who was of that FOMO. So yeah, you don't have the same. Like, your EV is going to be lower because you can play on every side, and there might be deposit limits and some other things to deal with. The cost of living will be usually higher, although in Andorra here is not necessarily very cheap either. It's not very expensive though for like the things you get back for it. I feel like low taxes, very low crime rates, a lot of resources, especially if you have kids, like a lot of playgrounds, very large playgrounds, like very nice, chill environment. Am I forgetting one? Like this, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Gibraltar, I guess, is the name. About the weather, yeah. Fair enough. Regarding Malta, Gibraltar might be a reasonable option. You can get there. Andorra is reasonable as well if you like warm weather, but it's not very warm. It's just like a little bit better than in the Netherlands usually. More sun hours, less rain, stuff like that, but not like significantly warmer usually. Gibraltar is like high cost of living, very small place, but no taxes on poker, and you can get in there without. For me, it is relevant. For you, it might not be, but from the EU. So that's a good one. There's no Brexit rules or whatever. You need to open a company, and there's some bots that might not be perfect for you either. But those are kind of the options that we looked at, and then you have like, I don't know, like Asia, Cambodia, Thailand, those types of countries. Could I ask what your point of view is on poker and taxes, especially what you would do if you lived in a country where poker isn't taxed? What's your... Why is that me? Let me just validate this first, and I'll go back to that question. I'll go back to Alan's question. Could I ask you what your point of view is on poker and taxes, especially what you would do if you lived in a country where poker isn't taxed? What would be your way forward as not contributing? I'm not entirely sure to your veteran years. So I'm not entirely sure if I get the question. I'm just going to call, like, assuming underbluffed, but yeah, like we just beat value here, so we just got a call. We get like a nice Daniel fuck, this is annoying. So I'm assuming that you mean like social security stuff like that, and if you don't pay taxes, then you don't contribute to that. I don't live in the Netherlands. Like in the Netherlands, you just you don't need to work to accumulate social security when you're like 67, 68, probably by the time I'm that age, so it was never really a concern. Now that I moved abroad, every year that I don't live in the Netherlands, I lose, I think it's like 2.5% of my social security when I'm that old. But at this point, I don't necessarily expect to rely on it. Also, I've got an additional like pension fund and stuff like that. If I was living in a country where that would matter, I don't know. Like, I'm guessing US countries are kind of like that, where like you need to work. If you don't work, then there's no benefits for you specifically. I have no idea how that works, by the way. But I know that there's like less. I don't know the specifics. I know that there's like less of a social. I'm not sure what the English term is, but like there's not. If you fall, you fall, kind of thing. So I would basically try to invest myself. I think like if you're, this is for anyone that wants to be a poker player. If you are a poker player that isn't already loaded significantly to the point where they could see themselves like retire some way or could go back to work or whatever. If you don't have any options like that, then so like if you don't have any options to go back to work and you make a reasonable amount of money, or if you don't have that, you might have like a significant amount of money. If you don't have that, so basically poker will be your career, your only career, then it's only viable if you make a significant amount more than you otherwise would, because you need to pay for the risk of games dying somehow in your state if you're playing live, online environment changing, the risk of going on a break-even swing for 6 months or a year. And I've been on break-even swings for 6 months for sure. I think multiple over the years since I started my blog on 100 months. So you need to be compensated for that risk by more security, in other words, more money. And when you end up quitting poker in 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever, you now have hopefully a few 100K that allows you to make decisions, or at least like in some countries it might be significantly less, like but like let's say you're in the US, then probably you want to have, let's say, at least 100K by the end of your career. 100K is not an awful lot in the US, but would make it so that you don't end up on the street, quite likely, and would allow you to invest in some education, like something that would allow you to change careers, or like learn some skill that would allow you to make a reasonable amount of money. So yeah, like I would, if you're currently someone that is not making is making enough to survive but not making enough to contribute to the future, whether the future is 5 years from now, 10 years or 15 years from now, and you don't have any other skill set or income or like portfolio or whatever to fall back on, then that would be something that needs your attention. And this is I do realize I'm from a perspective, like I have the perspective of someone that has that, and it's relatively easy to say, like, you need to work harder, or you need to do this or that. I don't want to give you specifics like that, but you need to think about that now. That's the only thing I can say. And what I would do, probably what I've advised other players, is like learning another skill and working, so you have stable income, and then treating poker as bonus money, which is what I did for a long time, is not necessarily a bad thing. Like that the fact that I had the teaching job and had stability there and whatever made it a lot easier to lose 10K playing 5-10. It made it like, okay, well, it's annoying. I want to have it back now if I could choose to, but it made it a lot easier than when the 10K would have been out of a 50K bankroll, and that 50K was all I had, basically. And I would rely on that. And I would be like, okay, if I lose another 10K, I need to definitely move down to 500 now, maybe 200 now. And if I keep losing there, then suddenly that has a pretty big impact on me in the relative short term. Don't rely on government for your pension. The system is entirely broken and based on debt. I think like it would largely depend on where you're from, to be honest. Like, yeah, but like it's yeah. To be honest, at this point, I'm not entirely sure myself anymore. Yeah. I don't want to get into a political discussion. The last thing I want is to have a political discussion about anything, basically. Let me see. This went check, and now we have the option to bet the river. I'm just going to bet it this time. We get more folds. This might be a good check raising candidate, but actually, this is a fine bet. Well, like I didn't say anything strategic here, but like basically you want to check ace, king if you have it, king, queen, probably not. Like ace, king you don't have it. The king, queen, king, jack, you want to block pairs because those pairs are going to check back. And this you want to bet yourself. And then you want to check raise something like king 10, king jack, king queen or something like that, I think. Yeah, so like I think in the Netherlands it is still relatively safe to rely on the state for your pension. Like not just on the state. Like if you work, then usually you build up additional pension, and that would be still relatively safe. I would say. But is this wait. I'm just going to lead here, but like this guy involved, this is a fine leading spot, not too high, but yeah, so I would not necessarily, like I'm not going to rely on just like the bare minimum in the Netherlands, but if I would have worked like 60 years as a teacher, I would have been relatively chill, expected that there would be something for me towards the end, maybe not as much as okay, GG. As they say right now, yeah, I thought that would be something like that. This is a fault, sure. When it once, oof. Was there deuce in the word? No, okay. Running pretty good, playing pretty bad. So yeah, again, it would depend a lot, like where you're from and stuff like that. I think if you've got a chance though, like as a teacher in the Netherlands, you can definitely build your own additional like portfolio with stocks and maybe some crypto or whatever you want, but you will very unlikely be very rich. As a poker player, you should aim for the 10 buy-in rule. Your expenses shouldn't exceed 10 buy-ins for your average stake. Everything else should be invested Bitcoin ETFs. Let me see. Your expenses shouldn't be 10 buy-ins for the average stake. That buy-in definitely not. And you should aim to say 50% of your income. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would like keep my income like I'm relatively like I'm well off right now at this point, obviously. A lot more wealthy than I was when I was a teacher. Again, not necessarily more happy, but definitely a lot better off financially. Sorry for the noise on the background, that's my daughter. But I don't really care for expensive cars or something like that, so I didn't buy an expensive car. I didn't really travel to the Bahamas, even to Vegas. Like it kind of feels like that would be something that would cost a lot of money and isn't necessarily, I could bring some back and it would give me some nice memories and stuff like that, but This is a more interesting hand. Yeah, so like my expenses are generally like experiences that I really like and that are not too expensive. So going out to dinner, I do quite liberally now, but my expenses are not very significant. This is an interesting one. I kind of want to go ahead and raise, because it's one of the best combos to raise, although if it's this sizing, it's really bad. Like, I just raise anyway. Generally, they are over-defending. Everything else is not long-term thinking, as the games can die tomorrow, and you don't have any other experience at 30 years old, which would put you in a very bad situation. Yeah, I agree. Like, you just want to expect the worst, basically. I don't think the games would die tomorrow necessarily. Like, if you're able to make a significant amount of money now, then you're going to be fine. If you're able to barely get by now, then you might be in trouble, and you don't want to go pro. What rules did you follow on moving up and down stakes? Like, mostly when I was staked, I was just like following their system. So, like, any time I could take a shot, I would take a shot. And then when I left Poker Detox, I was relatively conservative. So I wanted to have, let's say, 100 buy-ins for the new stake, but I was already playing full time back then. So yeah, like when I had 100k as, I guess, net worth, not necessarily like in the bank, but some was staking, some of it was tied up in investments somehow. But like, let's say I could, like, if I needed to, I could accumulate like 100k, and that could be like more or less my bankroll, life roll, kinda. I was playing 400 and now to 1k. And like, I think when I had like 130k, 150k or something like that, I was playing 10-20 for myself, but taking shots and then like doing it consistently when I had like 100 buy-ins. And then I stopped doing that after that, because at 25-50 the games don't consistently run, and from the Netherlands it was near impossible to play because of deposit limits and stuff like that, and the tax situation on the sites where it was running, it didn't have those deposit limits. So I just didn't really do that very much. I think generally when you play low and poker is not an important part of your, it might be an important part of your net worth, but you could, like, if you lose it today, you wouldn't be broke because you've got a job still and everything. Then the next question is like the most tough one. Want to see what time is it? Okay, yeah, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. How manage playing with small kids? I wouldn't be able to tell. Like, it's tough, especially here. We have a decent sized apartment. We have 3 bedrooms, and it's relatively spacious for a 3-bedroom apartment. But it's like, we used to have a relatively big house in like this in this city that I was from in the Netherlands, and we had like 2.5 times the amount of square meters. This is a more expensive house for what it's worth, but like the house that we had in the Netherlands, we live in like I said, in a very rough city, and basically kind of the outskirts. So housing prices there are actually pretty cheap. Anyway, like we then I had just an office, and like they would be downstairs, and I wouldn't have any issues with that. Okay, whatever. Not sure what this means. There's an error. And now it's a lot tougher. The playing poker is not the toughest part, because I can sit here noise cancelling headset on, and then usually they're not entering the room, and occasionally they are, and usually I can deal with that quite well because I like seeing them, and I don't really feel really bad when I lose anymore. So there's that. Here I just bluffed. Like, I could have bluffed earlier, but whatever. When I'm coaching or doing stuff like this, it can be tough because sometimes they're both having a meltdown, and then I have a coaching call, and I just gotta apologize because it is the way it is. I've been looking into getting an office here, but I would prefer to just be able to play poker for 2 hours and then directly be with my family. Don't have to leave the house here. And I've got a very nice setup here, so I'm probably just not going to do that. Any tips on investing? No. The ETFs, yeah. I've got VWCE, like Liebert is saying, and yeah, like that. And I've got some crypto, but basically, and I have a bunch of it is in my house and whatever. But like ETFs are probably like, if you don't have any idea, then go with ETFs. You're basically buying this very small portion of. If you're doing it like worldwide, like in every index, like Dow Jones, S&P 500, whatever. Basically, you're buying lots of very small fractions of all the companies in the world. That's like very simply put. Like I'm not an investment guru. I don't know enough, which is why I do this. But like that's basically it's a relatively low risk. There's always risk. You can lose your investment. You can lose half your investment or something like that. But because you spread it out over all the economies on the world, and you're basically banking on that going up over time because people will produce more and more goods and services and better goods and services. So you expect to outpace inflation, which is like the main goal. And beyond that, I'm just like, I don't have the time. I don't really want to spend a lot of time in getting better at even crypto. Like I've got some projects that I'm like, one project that I'm in quite heavily. I won't show it here because I don't want to be responsible for anyone losing their investment. And I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. It might very well be that the EV of putting that same amount of money into an ETF is significantly higher. But I like gambling a little bit, and I think it is going to be higher EV, higher risk, but I don't actually know. Yeah, so I've looked into Gibraltar. I can tell you what I know. You can live there. I have to remember this correctly. I could live there. I'm not sure if like any poker player can. I do know that you need to start a company there. So basically they don't have Brexit rules. They have different rules because they are like a very small. I don't even know what it's called like specifically, but let's say a very small state in the south of Spain, and a lot of Spanish people go over the border and work in Gibraltar one way or another. So they have like looser rules. They don't have it's not like you have free, you can just travel there freely. You need to have a company. I know for me it was possible to live there, for instance, as I had a company. I'm not entirely sure how it is if you just play poker, but you can do some investigation. Like the quickest way is just ask ChatGPT some question, expect that like it gets 80% right, and don't bet on anything. I think we just got a bet here. He should be betting himself pretty much always, I think, but whatever. I should be betting reasonable amount of tens on the turn. So yeah, they don't have the same Brexit rules. It's different, but it's kind of similar to in most tax havens where they just don't. Like in Andorra, for instance, you need to pay 50k to the government as a bond that doesn't accrue any interest. So effectively, you're paying the interest of like a 50k deposit, and you're banking on the government not defaulting in one way or another. And in Gibraltar, you need to have a company and you need a rental, and rentals are pretty pricey there. So those are like two things to consider. And then I looked into Monaco as well, and that's just impossible for mere mortals like me. Yeah, those are the kind of things I know. I'm going to wrap up relatively soon. I have no idea like how we're doing. We've got like 50-ish viewers, which is kind of cool. It's kind of weird to like, yeah, realize that, I guess. What should we do? Yeah, basically I'm at this point I need to do a bunch of things, reply to some Discord messages, re-record some videos that I made this morning because the resolution was off. But I kind of like doing this, so like every hour that I keep on doing this is procrastination, basically. But I think I just have to do some things first. So let's see if there's any very interesting questions. Does running in a GTO environment make sense? I will answer this question as the last one.